welcome to Intention Setting for Entrepreneurs. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I'm a program assistant at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit that is building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. So as you'll see in the chat, in a moment, the NASDAQ Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. Definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you're dialing in from in the chat. And second, we're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event. So please make sure to submit your questions for us in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will try our best to get to all of them. All right, Atlanta, Kansas, Texas, Chicago, San Francisco, Oklahoma, all across the country. Welcome, Dubai. Awesome. Thanks for joining, everyone. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, BPM, and HubSpot for Startups. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, I'm going to launch a couple polls to step back and see how everyone's doing today. And we'll use this to guide the future development of programs. All right. So this first one's going to ask, how are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? Give everyone a few moments to submit their responses. Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to end the poll and share the results. Optimism is in the lead. Survival and anxiety are there as well. So we'll try to address those feelings in what we talk about today. Going to stop sharing and launch the second poll. What's keeping you up at night? Kind of tells us a little bit more about your current needs. So I'll give everyone a few more moments to submit their answers there. Thank you for participating. Awesome. Gonna go ahead and end this poll and share the results. All right, we got finance in the lead, marketing and surviving kind of behind, but really all across the board. So we will take this into account. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And without any further delay, please join me in giving warmest of welcomes to our special guest, George Kao. He is a business coach and author of Joyful Productivity. George, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to hand you the floor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle, and Anna and the team for bringing me here. And thanks all of you for showing up. I know a lot of you are watching this later, and welcome to you as well. And as always, I love doing webinars, but I love even more interacting whenever possible. So the way you can interact with me right now, at least, is just a comment below. Whenever you hear something that I'm saying that it's inspiring for you, that you want to remember, or to help others remember, please comment below. Just a few words about what worked for you or any questions that you have. I'll do my best to try to address questions, especially at the end of this presentation. So let's get going. What we're talking about today is intention setting for entrepreneurs. And I'm going to teach you a method that I use with all my clients. It's called the FAR intention setting method. I use it myself, of course, as well. FAR stands for future, so visioning, action, so planning your actual day-to-day tasks, and R stands for review, which is to review your progress and then make adjustments to the vision and the actions as needed. So simple, right? Future, actions, review. The acronym is FAR, which means if you use this method again and again and again, it's sort of like something you come back to, which means you may want to come back to this webinar occasionally to refresh your idea about this. then you'll go far, F-A-R, you'll go far with this method, which I'm grateful to have in my business and to help clients do so as well. All right, so let's get going on the first segment, which is the future segment. So let me first explain sort of my perspective about visioning. Sometimes when you learn visioning and setting intentions, especially that word, you might have heard of things like the law of attraction. It's a little bit woo-woo, spiritual, etc. But the idea is, oh, if you get really clear in your mind and heart, and maybe write it out or create a vision board, images from magazines for what kind of life you want to live. If you just imagine it and then feel it in your body and feel the emotions, and somehow magically you'll manifest those intentions, right? Some of us have heard that kind of thing before. Well, do it if it helps you. But my opinion about that is we use visioning, intentions, kind of imagining the future so that we have a compass and a direction for where to go. For example, if you were taking a trip, right, you're making a journey, which entrepreneurship is very much a journey, and you're going to say, well, I have no idea what direction. Am I going towards that mountain, or am I going to the lake, or am I going to that forest? If you don't know where you're going, then you can't even set your direction. So am I going to go north or west or east or south, right? So vision is to help us set the direction, and also to motivate us that is really exciting. We are energized, us and our, you and your team are energized to go in that direction. So vision helps to bring the team together, go in that direction. And then, of course, once the vision's there, you set the actions. Say, well, it makes sense if we're going north to that mountain, then we have to get over this, find a way to get over the swamp, and then to avoid the troll bridge, et cetera, right? So that allows us to set actions. So first, let's work a little bit on visioning. Now, just to give you a sense of what we're going to do here. This is an overview of the FAR intention setting method. I have a whole course that goes more in depth, but because of our limited time together, I'm going to go pretty quickly into each section. I'm going to try to do as much as I can throughout give you the entire method, but things are quite quick. So take a few quick notes. Those of you watching this later can pause the recording and take your notes more gradually, more at your own pace. Okay. In terms of visioning, the first question I have for you, how do you dream? How do you dream? How do you allow new ideas and inspiration to come to you? What situations and activities do you do that allow those? For example, some of us, we take walks in nature. Others get ideas in the shower. And there's a cool tool called Aqua Notes. You can look this up on Amazon, for example. That is like a shower, like a waterproof shower, waterproof notepad you could stick on your shower wall. You have ideas, you can write it down, and then so something to look into, for example. But that's the question: is first, how do you get ideas? Maybe it's talking to a particular person, or maybe it's after listening to some music or something else, right? How do you do it? And then secondly, how do you capture those ideas? For example, for me, I use Todoist or Google Keep, some app on the phone. How do you capture ideas? And very important question, when and how do you organize those ideas? For some of us, we like to use a mind map to kind of organize our ideas. Others, we go to a spreadsheet and create columns to sort the ideas in various ways. Or maybe we work with a team and on a regular basis to say, all right, everyone, bring your ideas and let's put post-it notes on the wall, and then let's rearrange them. So when, that's the question for you. When, like, for example, for me, I have a daily process at the end of each of my work days. I go to all the notes I randomly got ideas from in my Todoist and in my Google Keep, and then I wrangle them into the categories. And I'll give you a tool now that's supposed to be in the action part of this webinar, but I'll tell it to you now. It's called Capture, Categorize, Calendar. the acronym is CCC. It's easy to remember. If you want to just Google capture, categorize, calendar, you'll get my blog post, and there's a video that walks you through more in depth how to do it. But the idea is capturing your ideas is one, but then most of us, a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs particularly, fall down by not having a regular time to categorize the ideas they've captured into various, marketing, finance, administration. Oh, this for that project or that project. So have a place to categorize those ideas so that, and then calendar, capture, categorize, calendar. Calendar, the way I manage my calendar is that I calendar in my categories. Let me say that again. I don't usually calendar in specific to-do items because that makes my calendar too busy, but I calendar in my categories. All my ideas and tasks are categorized into the various categories, and I calendar in regular recurring basis. I work on the marketing, I work on finance, I work on the administration, I work on this project, that project. Regular times on the calendar for those projects. And so when the calendar says, hey, work on your administration or work on this project XYZ, then you go to the category of ideas for project XYZ. Maybe you have a few documents or you have a list of to-dos that you can look at. Good. Now what feels most important now to work on that? So if you do capture, categorize, calendar, nothing ever falls through the cracks. So you can Google that to read more. But how do you capture ideas? How do you organize ideas? And who do you talk to that inspires you? Okay, so that's the visioning part of it, right? I went into a little bit of action, but let's continue on the vision. As you are creating the vision, okay, using the FAR methodology, Future Actions Review, you can first you gotta ask yourself, what is the scope of my visioning right now? Am I using this methodology to for my entire year, for the rest of the year? Is that the scope, is 1 year? Or is the scope this week? Because you could use this intention setting method either for a whole year, for your lifetime, for the 10-year plan, for 1 year plan, for the week, or even for the day. So that's the question. What's the scope? Make a decision right now. Just to play right now, maybe it's the rest of the year, or maybe it's this quarter. Okay, so it's just make a decision right now. At least you can play with that scope as we work through the method. All right, so now, based on the scope, we're going to write down the vision for that scope. So for example, if you're writing down your 1 year plan, then okay, then here are the questions. Or you're doing a 1 week plan, here are the questions. Number one, once that scope of time has ended, once the 1 week has ended, or once the 1 year has ended, what have you accomplished? Or what are you now experiencing that you weren't experiencing at the start? So what are you experiencing at the end of the scope that you weren't experiencing at the start? What have you accomplished? What are you experiencing? Or what are you doing with more skillfulness than at the beginning? Maybe it's a skill that you're developing, right? And then there's some other context setting questions like, where are you? If it helps you to envision, if it excites you to go, now I'm in this location, like a day in the life after the year has passed feels and looks like this. Where are you? Who are you working with, if it's relevant, right? What day is it? Like anything you want to say about the actual timeline, right? Stay lighthearted about the timeline, but write it down if it energizes you. And why else does it matter what has happened? Like what happened and why does it matter that it happened, right? How does it relate to the mission of the business or the purpose of your life? So again, once the scope has ended, what's happened? What are you now experiencing? What are you doing with more skillfulness? And any other context clues, like where are you? What does the room look like? Who are you working with? How do you feel? And why does it matter that you've accomplished it? That's the vision. That's the vision that hopefully will energize you forward into taking action, into doing the hard work of organizing your ideas and taking action step by step. Okay, so writing down your vision. If it helps, you can pause the recording now and do some writing. Those of you who are live here, write a few words, although we need to keep moving on. At least you're getting the entire, method, and then you can come back to it. Okay, so let's continue on here. Oh, by the way, if you have other questions that help you to set a vision that inspires you, other questions or writing prompts that help you to write out what your vision is for the year, 5 years, for the week, please feel free to comment below. What other questions help you to generate inspiration for your vision? Okay. All right. Moving on, still part of the visioning. Now I'm going to ask you, what are your values for the vision that you're writing? So another way of asking is, how will you work along the way? Because a lot of times, entrepreneurs especially, so passionate about getting our product to the market or solving our, financial issues or sales issues, that it's easy to start getting into this means to an end, or the end justifies the means kind of a philosophy, which is dangerous. Because if you think, I don't care how we get there, we're going to get there, we're going to work all night, we're going to, burn ourselves out essentially, or we're going to cut some corners, do some things that don't feel 100% ethical to us, but who cares? We're going to get to the goal. We're going to reach the sales numbers, or finally launch the product in a way that we want to launch it. So I like to say this: your vision and your ambition is never wrong. You have a positive vision for the world, of course, or for your life, obviously. Your vision and ambition are never wrong, but the way you decide to get there might be wrong. And when I say wrong, I don't mean I'm judging you as wrong. It might be wrong to you. It might go against your ethics or your conscience or your values, the way you're getting there. So your ambition is never wrong, but your timeline and the way you get there might be wrong, because you might say, I'm attached to the timeline. We got to make this a 6-figure, 7-figure launch by this quarter, next year, whatever your scope is. Yes, you will eventually have a 6, 7, 8-figure revenue, fine. But if we're going to say it must happen this year or this quarter or whatever, then you start to cut corners and do whatever is necessary to manipulate people, and all that stuff. And hopefully, as well as I do, that that's not how you want to work. Is it? I don't think so, because you're not going to be happy about yourself and your team is not going to be happy, right? So back to the question, what are your values for this vision? How will you work along the way? So for me, feel free to chat below, by the way, what some words come to you. Like, yes, we want to get to this amount of money, or this success of a launch, or this success of a market penetration. But what's equally, or maybe more important, in my opinion, more important to us, is that we work like this. We embody these values as much as we can along the way. For me, I talk often about joyful productivity and authentic business. So my values are joyfulness, authenticity, working lightly. So I look at business as a very long-term thing, which is, if I just keep plodding along the way gradually, my audience grows, my products sell better. It's a long-term, and I have seen it because I've been a full-time entrepreneur now for 13 years in my own business, and I've seen it. It's like you got to play the long game, which means the values are what we prioritize above and beyond the results or the outcome, the KPIs, right? The metrics. The metrics are an indication of the effectiveness of our actions to date and how aligned we are with the market demand, sure. But as we keep applying our values, and we get more skillful at what we do, the KPIs and the metrics, of course, are going to keep improving, right? So you don't want to burn yourself out. You don't want to burn your team out. You don't want to cut corners in ways that you regret. That so another thing I've learned over time is if you apply your values in launching your business or in growing your business, marketing is supposed to get easier over the years. Like if you find marketing to be, we always have to launch and always have to work so damn hard every time we launch something or do a product reveal or do a, get more sales. It's because your audience doesn't trust you as much as they could. And so over the years, I've learned, I've had 2 segments in my business history where like the first segment, I was like, by any means necessary, we're going to make more money, sell more product. And I did things, I never did anything illegal, but I did some kinds of marketing that didn't make me feel great. It made me feel like manipulative and using persuasion psychology, which I really dislike. I'm all about authentic marketing, which I'll give you a quick summary of it. Authentic marketing makes marketing easier over the long term because you build real loyalty and a true fan base. And authentic marketing is kind of like it's not that we're not persuasive and charming and brand doesn't look amazing, sure, but it kind of happens because of our innocence and because of our passion, our innocent passion that is expressed with care and with joy towards our audience, rather than the typical marketing you're going to learn. I don't want to, say anything bad about any of my colleagues, but the kind of marketing that I have learned mainstream and that I don't like is how do we manipulate people more skillfully? I don't like it. Persuasion psychology, sales funnels, just like being tricky. And anyway, no, we don't have to. No, you can be an innocent, passionate, joyful marketer but as long as you have a long-term view on things, it works. My marketing has gotten easier and easier over the years because I have bigger audience, more loyalty. My email open rate is 50%, which is almost unheard of in my industry, usually 20 to 25%, regularly 50%. My click rate is 3 times higher than my email newsletters. Anyway, I'm just saying it works. Okay, so values. What are your values? How will you work along the way? I promise you, if you emphasize that, it's going to work out better and better for you over the years. Okay, let's keep going. Next, final thing in terms of vision is to ask yourself the question, you have a big vision. I know you do. How can you get support along the way? Okay, so for example, do you know someone else who has done something like this? Maybe you're launching a brand new product that the market's never seen, but still you probably know people or can access people who have launched successfully in your industry. So can you somehow get mentored by them? At least read their books or read their blogs or watch their videos, attend their webinars. But somebody who has successfully done something as similar as what you're trying to do, you should learn from that specific person as much as possible. Don't just learn from general business coaches like me, unless, right? Like, sure, you can learn from me if you want, but like also learn very specifically your industry mentors. Okay, second question is, who benefits from your vision? Who benefits when your vision is successful? And how can you involve them in the creation of this? So a couple examples. One, obviously, your customers will benefit from your vision. So how can you involve your customers in doing your market research and market launches? So I always think of marketing, I think of authentic marketing as making friends at scale. That's how I define it, making friends at scale or becoming friendly to a lot of people at scale, which means whenever I'm launching something, I try to bring my market to my side of the table to look at the marketing problem together, rather than me going, how can I persuade you? And how can I be clever and charming to you? No. I'd say, hey, I'm trying to launch this thing to support all of you, this product or this service. Tell me what you think. Like, do you what market research questions, right? Like, what kind of problem are you really looking for? Because we want to build this in. So involving your market is one example. Involving your family is another example, because if your vision succeeds, your family is probably going to benefit too, whatever you mean by your family. Involve them in supporting you, enroll them into supporting you in working on this vision. So I hope this is helpful. And thank you for those who are chatting and commenting below, Christy, Sandra, Anna, and others who are commenting below. Appreciate it. Okay, next, let's go to action, shall we? Okay, so when it comes to action, the first thing I wanna share with you is, well, first of all, I mentioned earlier the whole thing about CCC. I hope you look it up on Google and capture, categorize, calendar. That's essentially my main resource for you for how to plan your actions. Capture, categorize, calendar. So look it up. It's a whole method. There's a whole blog post and video about that. Besides that, though, I have a couple other things for you, okay? I have an acronym. So you have probably heard of SMART goals, right? Well, I'm going to give you something different. So SMART goals, whatever the acronym is, I forgot, something like specific, you know, time bound. You know, you could Google SMART goals to find out what it. But I have something else for you. I have WISE goals. I have WISE working for you. WISE as an acronym. WISE working instead of SMART goals. You can use SMART goals if it helps you, but I'm going to give you WISE working. WISE. So let me explain. This is part of the action part of the methodology, right? W stands for willing, even if not inspired. Let me just walk through the acronyms and I'll talk about each one. Willing, even if not inspired. That's W. I is to invite support. S is to segment your work. And E stands for energy reboots. Okay, so let me explain each of these. Willing, if not inspired. What do I mean by that? Okay, so it's probably, hopefully, fun for you to vision, to set intention, to dream about the possible beautiful future that you're going to help create. And maybe it's even fun for you to involve your market or involve your team into setting the vision. It's generally not as fun for us to take the actions. Why? Well, lots of reasons. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, right? Confusion about how to get from A to B, you know, technical issues, challenges, lots of reasons why it's not as fun to take action as it is to dream, right? Okay, so willing, if not inspired, willing, even if not inspired, reminds us that there are going to be many days when you get to the office or when you get to your computer or wherever you work, you're just not inspired to take the actions that you had planned to take. Not inspired. So should you then go with your impulse and go, oh, I'm going to go and surf social media or get a snack or whatever it is, or do something else that's not really moving the needle on your vision? It's too easy to do that. Have meetings, have more meetings with your team. You know, now some team meetings are very helpful, especially if it's like, you know, culture building and where you actually, or something you need real time to make some plans or to do some work together. Co-working is a great use of meeting time because you're doing work together. But a lot of meetings, sometimes they're just kind of delaying our actual action taking. So willing, even if not inspired, reminds us, you know what? We're not going to be inspired most of the time. But here's the key. Instead of waiting for inspiration and expecting that somehow flow will show up, okay? You practice generating flow. You practice cultivating inspiration. That's what I do on a daily basis. For example, every time I do a lot of writing in my business, a lot of video making as well, content creation. I do a lot of creating, you know, courses and things like that. I'll tell you, if you go to my YouTube channel and watch my videos, I will guarantee you this. Most of the videos you see that I make, I was not inspired when I started recording. And you can even tell, especially if you look at my 20+ minute videos, the ones that were a little bit longer. Notice the first 2 to 3 minutes, my energy versus, the last 10 minutes of my video. It's a different energy because I know I'm never going to prepare enough for any content that I create. I'm never going to prepare enough for any product that I launch. Never going to be prepared enough. No, there's always more research. There's always more that can be done to make my preparation even more, perfect, accounting for all contingencies and all questions and all that. Never going to be prepared enough. Never going to be inspired enough. What I noticed I had to do is just press record, or to press publish, or to just launch the darn product. Not going to be good enough. I always think in terms of iterations. It's just going to be version 1 right now, or version 0.1, or version 1.5 or whatever. Willing, if not inspired, and practice generating flow means, okay, I know I'm just have to show up. I'm not inspired right now to write or to take action, but I'm going to just start, knowing that as I get going, I generate flow that way. That's most of my days. I'm sorry if someone told you that entrepreneurship was all fun and flowy every day. You probably know by now that it's not. Entrepreneurship is mostly either hustle and grind, which is not fun, or calmly practice cultivating flow. I wrote a book called Joyful Productivity. You might want to look it up, or you can go to my website. I have lots of articles about joyful productivity. It's what I practice on a daily basis, and this is what I recommend to you as well. Willing, even if not inspired, means you're showing up every day, not inspired right now. I don't feel like doing it. I think I'm going to fail. I have no ideas right now. Maybe I should do it tomorrow. That's all. Your mind is brilliant at playing tricks with you, throwing up resistance to say, maybe tomorrow you'll be more inspired. No. Willing, even if not inspired, I'm just going to start. Work lightly. And I know that by 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes in, I'll feel more inspired because I'll see more of the shape coming through. Oh, I could do it this way. This action, I could take it that way. The horizon keeps changing with every step that we take. If we sit there looking at the horizon and go, maybe tomorrow I'll be able to see farther along the horizon. No, you have to take steps and the horizon keeps changing. Oh, wait a second. I didn't know that there was a hill over there that I had to, or I didn't know that there was a swamp there that I had to figure out how to traverse, right? Horizon keeps changing. Willing if not inspired. I stands for invite support, which we talked about already, but it's always, we always remember when we take action, you don't have to do it alone. Now, some of you have teams that you can, work together and things like that. For those of you who don't have teams, I recommend a tool called FocusMate. I use FocusMate several hours a day. I really do. Some of you have heard of this, and those of you who haven't, check it out. It's a co-working tool where you set up an account. I'm pointing over here because I bought the cheapest tablet from Costco just to use for my FocusMate sessions. It's like $100 from Costco, and I just have it for FocusMate. So FocusMate is basically you sign up, you book a slot, and then you show up at the time of the slot, and there's somebody else there you don't know, but you just greet each other and say, hey, what are you working on today? Oh, you're working on that? Great. I'm working on this. Okay, see you in 48 minutes. It's 50-minute sessions or 25-minute. There's 25-minute, 50, and 75-minute sessions. Anyway, I invite support all day long by using FocusMate to say, hey, I'm working on this blog post. I don't really want to do it, but you're here, so I'm going to do it, and I'll report back to you later. It works. It's been life-changing for me. I now have logged over 5,000 FocusMate sessions over the past 5-6 years now. So give it a try. It's really changed my business quite a bit. So WI, willing if not even not inspired. I is to invite support. S is to segment your work. So here's what I mean by that. When you show up for an hour of work, what do? Do you just go, all right, I got to write a marketing plan. All right, I got an hour to write the marketing plan. What am I going to do? And you just like do it like that. To me, that's too stressful. So I segment my work. I go, okay, I've got an hour. I want to make some progress on the marketing plan. Let me segment this hour into 15-minute chunks. So the first 15 minutes, I'm just going to, I don't know, brainstorm, and I can use the FAR methodology if I want to. Oh, vision, by the end of the hour, I want to have done this. What that means, I can backcast to say, if I want by the end of the hour, holding lightly to the timeline to say, by the end of the hour, I want a draft of the marketing plan. Okay, fine. So that means by the half-hour mark, I want to have outlined 4 sections of the marketing plan. I don't know what those 4 sections are. First 15 minutes, I'm going to brainstorm what those 4 sections are. It might not be 4 sections. It might be 3 or 5 or 2 or 8 or whatever. But I segment each hour of work, and I recommend you try this as well. Whether you work for 1 hour segments or for 2 or 4 hour segments, break that down so that you're like, okay, first 15 minutes, I'm just going to, and every segment, here's the key. Every segment of work should feel very doable for you. You should not look at a segment and go, oh my God, I have to do that? How is that possible? And so 15 minutes. All right, 15 minutes. I'm going to go wild and brainstorm any, let's say I'm doing a marketing plan. I'm gonna go wild and brainstorm any ideas that might possibly go into this marketing plan. There's no judgment. There's no limit. First 15 minutes, I'm gonna play. Brainstorm. And then the next 15 minutes, I'm going to organize just for 15 minutes. I know I can organize forever. I'm going to take 15 minutes to organize all those ideas into possible sections for what that plan, right? Okay. And then the next 15 minutes, I'm going to organize the ideas within each section and to see what other section. And then finally, last 15 minutes, I'm going to see what other sections might be needed. Or maybe the last 15 minutes, I'm going to send it on to somebody else for feedback or something like that. So I'm always segmenting every hour of work. That makes me feel much calmer, makes the work much more doable. So let me know what you think about this idea, chat below, and give us an example of a project you have coming up and how you might segment that hour of work so that every segment feels very doable to move on to the next segment. Okay, finally, E stands for energy reboots. And essentially, energy reboot the question is, how do you check in with yourself during the hour and refresh your energy along the way? Refresh your energy, refresh your direction, refresh your focus along the way. I call it energy reboot. And you can actually go to Google or whatever search engine you use. Bing is going to be huge in the next year because of ChatGPT, but go whatever search engine you want and then search energy reboot. And you'll find probably my blog post, my video, YouTube, whatever. I have several videos about energy reboot and practice and showing you how I do it. But the key is, how do you refresh yourself throughout the day? Instead of, this is totally outdated, right? Like instead of people thinking, okay, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to do a great morning hygiene. Maybe I'm working out, maybe I'm meditating, maybe I'm, doing something to make myself refreshed. And then I'm just going to work for 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever. And then at the end of my day, then I'll refresh myself again by resting and, playing or whatever. It's totally outdated. What makes more sense? Maybe this is ancient wisdom. I don't know. But what makes more sense to me is you refresh yourself throughout the day. So another idea I want to share with you is I take multiple naps a day. Yeah, I do. I actually literally lie down, close my eyes. I don't usually fall asleep. I point over here because I literally have a mattress here with blankets and stuff. It's that easy for me just to get off the call and go take a nap. So I recommend that to you. So energy reboot can include a nap, but also energy reboot can be done much smaller, where every hour I actually do a 20-second energy reboot several times that hour. It's just a breathing practice. It's a breathing practice and refocusing practice. Again, you can Google it to find out and then see how you want to customize it for yourself. So to summarize the action portion, right? Wise working instead of smart goals. Smart goals is fine, but we like to do wise working here. Willing, even if not inspired. Invite support, that's I. Segment your work, and then energy reboots along the way. So you always refresh and you always kind of come back. That's why I've been able to be honest, I've outlasted many of my competitors in my industry, just because I see my people around me and they're like doing really stressful launches, and then they have low times, and it's like business is so stressful for so many people. I'm like, that's not sustainable. I'm going to still be here 30 years from now, I hope. Come to my webinar 30 years from now. Set a date, okay? I'll still be here doing this kind of thing with even more joyful productivity, calm, joyful. That's how I like to work. And I think if you do it this way, you'll be much more happy because, the reality is most of your life, waking hours, is spent working. So if you want to improve the quality of your life, it's not about going on vacation or having a better weekend. Sure, do that. But it's like, what about the other 40 to 60 hours you work during the week? How can you improve the quality of that life? Joyful productivity, right? Wise working. Okay. So finally, the last thing I'll say about action is one step at a time. You can accomplish your vision truly one step at a time. So if some step looks too big to you, imagine climbing a staircase, right? If one step is too big, it's not a step. It's more like you need a ladder. And then each rung on the ladder is very doable, right? One step at a time. So if there's ever too big of a step, just bring it down, chunk it down, segment your work. Okay. Finally, I think I have, a few minutes left, I hope. Let's talk about review, the review section, and we'll go into some Q&A. So remember, the methodology is future visioning, looking at the future, getting excited about it, and then actions, planning your actions along the way and segmenting your work, and then review. Okay. So first of all, what do we review? We look at the actions we took. We celebrate the progress, no matter how small. And then we ask ourselves, what did we learn? What did we learn from our action taking? And then number 4 is, do we need to adjust either the vision, the timeline, or the actions, the plan, basically? Do we need to adjust the vision or the plan? So that's what we review, okay? And you might want to review this to hear that again, all right? So, so the next question I have for you is, when you do write down the lessons that you are learning from your action taking, where are you writing it down? I recommend to my clients a method called creating a hat manual. Okay, hat manual. What does that mean? In your business, you wear multiple hats. Sometimes you're doing the marketing, sometimes you're doing the finance, sometimes you're doing the administration. So these are different hats. And for each hat, do you have a manual for how to do that role? A manual doesn't have to be spiral bound and 58 pages. It could simply be a simple checklist on a Google Keep note, a simple checklist. So a hat manual just sounds fancy, but it's just a checklist of actions, of the process of doing that thing, or reminders for yourself whenever you do your marketing, whenever you do your finance. Or do you have a hat manual for these different roles? I do. That's how I can work so calmly throughout the year. It's like, oh, I'm doing a product launch. Oh, no problem. I have a product launch hat manual. Let me open that. And every time I do a product launch, I just improve the hat manual a little bit, make it look prettier, or add some steps, or take some steps away, or update some links within it. So when you review, you are essentially updating your hat manual for whatever you did. Okay. So next question is, whom will you review with? It's super helpful when you do your reviews. You could do it by yourself, but it's more fun, I think more insightful to review with somebody else. So it's either a team member you're reviewing your actions with, and they might be reviewing their actions with you, or you're reviewing it with a friend, or with a consultant, a coach, mentor, etc. Okay. And when you review, again, remember to celebrate your progress, and also to look at what you can learn from it and what you're going to write down from it, essentially. And lastly, when do you review? When do you do reviews? So if you're doing like a long scope, like a 1-year plan, then, well, I'll just say it this way. If it's a 1-year plan, you should review at least every quarter, right? If not once a month, do a review. That makes sense. If you're doing like a 1-week scope, then your reviews can be just at the end of the week. What did I do this week? If you feel more inspired and it helps you keep you on track, you could review every day to say, all right, I've got the 1 week plan. What did I do today towards that plan? What did I learn? What can I tweak about my plan? What's going to happen tomorrow? So so essentially, I'm going to stop there. I think I've talked enough, starting to lose my voice here. And I'd love to hear if there are any questions or any comments. So yeah, Michelle, come back and
Awesome. Thank you
yay,
so much. That
you're
was
welcome.
absolutely incredible. We definitely have a lot of questions here, so let's jump right in.
Yeah,
Just a couple clarifying questions on a couple of the things you talked about. The HAT manual, is that your standard operating procedure for each review, or like a different way to collect action lists, if that makes sense? Like, is it kind of like
yeah,
a to-do list in
yeah,
a way?
yeah. No, it's exactly right. Standard operating procedures is another way of putting it. Except it changes. Like, it's a standard, but
Mhm.
every time you review it, you probably go, you know what, next time we do this launch, or next time we make this kind of campaign or do this kind of webinar or whatever, let's add some improvement to it, or let's, like, it needs refreshing sometimes, like, do we really still need to do that?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. That's great. And then referring to the WISE method and
Yeah,
willing if not inspired, does this, how does this kind of apply to setting up systems like admin, finance, taxes?
yeah, yeah.
Like
Right.
this entrepreneur says, the foundation building, I sometimes feel bored and I just want a simple plan. So how
Oh
do you
yeah.
kind of
Oh yeah.
approach
Totally. Well, so taxes is a great example. Who loves doing taxes other than CPAs and people
that?
who are
Right.
paid to do it, right? Yeah, I have to definitely, right now we're recording this in February. So yes, in the next 2 months, a lot of
Mhm.
us have to be willing, if not inspired, to work on our taxes. And
Totally.
so what that means is you have to, well, you could use the WISE methodology, willing, not inspired, invite support, so your spouse or your teammates or whatever, whoever does your taxes, your CPA,
Sure.
segment your work. Like, all right, we're probably not going to do the whole taxes this afternoon, but why don't we spend this afternoon gathering receipts?
Right.
Or why don't we spend this afternoon just like looking at what our bookkeeping is saying or whatever. So the boredom can be solved by usually inviting support or doing your energy reboots, or just trying to, like, very basic, but like everything you do in your work can be more fun.
Hmm.
And it's up to your creativity and go, well, how do I make this more fun? Put on some music, or like work somewhere else that's a bit more lively,
Right.
or here's another thing, like maybe just do it for half an hour, or maybe even sometimes when something's really hard for me, I'm like, let me just set a 10-minute timer. That's all I can bear.
Right.
Solve this technical challenge, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Let me set a timer. And just during that timer, 10 minutes, here's my promise to myself. I'm going to bring something to this to not suffer through it. Like, can I make this like more of a game, or
Right.
more curiosity, or more like connecting this technical challenge to, like, well, if I solve this technical challenge, it's going to really help all these people. So like
Mhm.
bringing more like compassion into it or something. Like, there's always some value you can bring into something that makes it less boring, less tedious, less frustrating. And then the last thing I'll say is, like, if you want someone to just give you plans, well, thankfully, plans are easy to come by these days. Go on Google, Bing, ChatGPT. I mean, ChatGPT is amazing, right? Like, you can go to
Right.
ChatGPT and go, I am stuck writing a marketing launch for this software service. Please give me a 5-step, 10-step plan to do the marketing launch. And then boom,
Right.
within
Yeah.
seconds, it's there. And then of course, you can tweak it and go, I don't like your point number 2. I think you need to expand that market. Great. So it's like these days, AI will give you all the
Sure.
plans,
Yeah.
or Google or Bing or whatever. So
No, but these are great ideas, and I love that you brought it back to values and just how important that is in like the
oh
inception of
yeah,
all of these ideas.
yeah.
So a lot of our entrepreneurs in the audience are kind of working on their business as a solopreneur. So, there's a lot that needs to get done, a lot of urgency and like business matters. And then, there's still personal life. How do you find the time or like give yourself permission to take the time to kind of like slow down and think through these concepts between all
Yeah,
that?
totally great question. This is where I think you kind of need to invite support a little bit, because um, if you have a team, they might be sending you fires to put out,
Mhm.
or things that you have to do. Or if you have a family, they might, for a lot of us entrepreneurs, like this is a real thing. Like
Mhm.
your family might go, yeah, you're just that's a dream you have. Like you're not
Right.
really working, you know. Or maybe you have a job and you have a side hustle trying to build this thing. It's like,
Sure.
you're not really working. Like you can, mommy, you're not really working. I know you're not working. You're not working at your job right now, or daddy or whatever. And so that's why you need to invite support and go, hey, listen, kids, spouse, team, friend, housemate, or whatever.
Mhm.
Like I Saturday, I'm working all week on my job, and on Saturdays is my entrepreneur time. And so between 12 to 5 p.m. on Saturdays, please, just assume that I'm at the other job. And by the way, you have to say this to yourself too.
Yeah.
You have to carve out the time with yourself, take yourself seriously, take your business seriously, to say, all right, the business is not going to be better if I don't set time to plan for it.
Right.
So, or set intentions and do this stuff. So I'm going to make an appointment, Saturdays, 12 to 2 or whatever,
Mhm.
put it on Focus Mate so that someone is expecting me to show up,
Mhm.
or talk to a friend or a colleague to say, hey, can we do this together on Saturday, whatever time, set some time, and then say, all right, showing up, I'm just going to work on the plan right now, or work on whatever it is that I usually put off time for. So,
Right. Yeah.
and
Love it.
close the door.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So then kind of on the opposite end for entrepreneurs who are kind of leading a team when you're visioning and trying to kind of gain that sense of direction, like how would you suggest going about this process as a team in a way that boosts motivation?
Oh yeah, totally. So, your team, well, yeah, it's essentially about enrolling your team into the mission of the business. I mean, hopefully the fact that they're your team means that they're already enrolled in some larger vision. Otherwise, hopefully they wouldn't have joined.
Right.
But of course you have to look at, like, the more autonomy you give your team, the more motivation there is.
Hmm.
And so when you're visioning, don't just go to your team and go, all right, I've got the vision, I've got the plan, now you go and do it, because that's demotivating. There's no autonomy that you're giving them. So I think the visioning is more fun, to get together and go, all right, everyone, is there a better way of phrasing this? Now, even the mission
Right.
of the business or whatever, like, can we find a more motivating and inspiring way to phrase the cause, the mission, the vision? Let's get together and like put our ideas together, and let's get something that's really in, values or whatever. Let's everyone contribute, and
Hmm.
let's try to make sure everyone's contribution is in there somewhere, somehow. And then from there you can say, all right, how do we get there from where we are now? Everyone contribute ideas, and let's try to make sure everybody's contribution is valued and appreciated. And you have a team. Your team is, in my opinion, more important than the results or whatever you imagine results are. So it's like
Hmm.
loving your team means, like, even if you think someone's idea is not as good as yours, you have to include that somehow, and then
Right.
let it play out, and then if the reality will show if the idea is good or not. Right. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, but I think that's a really great way to go about that.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I think we have time for one more question. We have a few asking about segmenting of your timeline into, these different action tasks. And so what are some ways that entrepreneurs can think about segmenting, or like maybe like some questions they can ask themselves to like get into the detail of like what actually needs to get done? What do they
Yeah.
actually need to do?
Right. So this is where, like, this FAR methodology is kind of like holographic. It's kind of
Mhm.
like a fractal, where it's like, all right, we first do a 10-year plan with this FAR method, and then we do a 1-year plan based on the 10-year plan. Like each year, we said the 10-year plan was going to be like this. So year one, we already, the year one project becomes the vision for a 1-year FAR setting, intention setting method.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the 1-year vision, you have like, okay, quarter one, quarter two, Q1, okay, Q1 project that we get done becomes the vision for the intention setting method for Q1. It's like, okay, now Q1, we said we're going to launch product X. Well, that's our vision now. So when product X has been launched, what does that mean? What have we gotten done? What have we gotten done, essentially? And then you backcast from, well, we've gotten this done, which if we've gotten that done, that means we would have had to get this done as well. If we got that done, that means this would have. So it's kind of like you have to brainstorm with yourself, with ChatGPT or with your team.
Totally.
What is needed to be, I can't tell you what that is because every project is different,
Yeah.
but essentially the vision setting, smaller and smaller scope, and then the backcasting said, well, that has to be done. Then these pieces must have gotten into place. That's the question, right?
I love it. That's such a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
So kind of just to close out, if you had one key takeaway that you wanted to leave with the audience, or a piece of wisdom that you've carried with you that you wanted to pass along, what would that be?
Rewatch this webinar. No. Or watch more of the NASDAQ Entrepreneur Center webinars, because there's so much wisdom there. But yeah, I would say bottom line is this. Your vision is totally doable. And where we fall down along the way is we think there's this giant step from here to there. No, there's so many steps. And whatever you're intimidated by, just chunk it down more. I mean, even the simple question is, okay, I have this thing I need to do, but I don't know how to come up with a plan for it. Then the plan is, what resource can I use to come up with a plan for that?
Right.
And like I keep saying these days, AI tools, Chat GPT, there's a plus version now, which is $20 a month, which is like incredibly worthwhile. It's like you can ask questions all day long about plans for this, plans for that.
Right.
Plans now should not be a problem. So it's like the key is to apply segmenting and apply your values along the way, and you're gonna do great, and you're gonna enjoy yourself along the way, which I think is more important.
Amazing. So inspiring. I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
On behalf of the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center and everyone in attendance today, we are just so grateful for all of your insight and just such a great overview of this incredible method. So thank you
so much. Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for being here who are live. Michelle, Anna, Colin, thanks for making this work.
Awesome. And to everyone in attendance, we would love for you to join us again for our upcoming webinars. You can view them in the chat, that's in the link that's going to be posted in the chat. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we look forward to welcoming you back on